We're just starting our recording. I'd like to welcome everybody for joining. This is our last session of our Tara focus program, and we will be doing some of the Tara praises to clear obstacles. We'll also be doing that short Tara sadhana, and this is a great way of clearing any obstacles for anything personally, particularly that you need right now. And we can also think of this on a global level of how we can remove some obstacles on the planet. If we can. It's also something recommended by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So especially the Tara mantras, the green Tara mantras that we're going to be doing together. So this is a great opportunity. And I'd like to just start with considering your motivation and the purpose that you came together, that we're coming together this evening, your particular purpose. And this is about us placing our mind in not only a positive, beneficial space, but I like setting a motivation because this is me taking control of my mind and directing it where I'd like it to go, rather than allowing the multitude of distractions pull my energy in different directions. So that motivation provides that anchor, and I don't mean in a leaden way. It provides the grounding of an anchor to keep me focused on what's important. And then through the day, I have my anchor, but I can move around, okay? But it's all motivated. It's all informed from that positive motivation. So take a moment right now from that place. If you'd like, you can close your eyes for a moment. And setting the mind in that most buoyant experience you can. I find what lends to that is my considering other living beings. And especially if I can feel that I could get to a place where I can most beneficially serve them and help them expansively, unlimitedly, that lends to a lot of meaning in my life. So just take a moment, set that motivation. So if we can become Buddhas, then we're unlimited in most benefiting all others, best serving all others. With that motivation in mind, let's get together right now. And let's just start with a kind of settling meditation. So find a comfortable physical posture. It's perfectly fine to sit in a chair. If you're in a chair and you don't have your feet crossed in a meditation posture, feel the soles on the ground right now. Feel the bottom of your feet on the ground, but a grounded way as a positive buoyancy supporting you. Almost as if you feel the roots of the earth coming in. That's your support, holding you. And as you do this, slowly allow your inhalations and exhalations to deepen. Just slowing down the breath as you deepen. Bringing your awareness to that breath. And I'd like you to imagine right now, imagine you are lying on the beach on a warm, sunny day. And I'd like you to just feel that experience. So the sun is just right now. It's not too warm, but there's a light breeze to the air. You're in a very comfortable position. Take a moment to allow yourself to sink a little deeper into this experience, letting go of the distractions of the day and allowing relaxation to start to take over. And just note those physical sensations of the body, comfort seeping in to every part of the body. Maybe you're focusing now on the sounds around you. Imagine the ocean lapping, some waves, and then the lapping up to the shore and then sliding out again. Just get in touch with those rhythms. And so with the sense faculties right now, we were focusing a bit on physical sensation, auditory consciousness. Anything else with the other senses, we're only focusing now on what is pleasant. You could also be at the beach under an umbrella, perfectly fine. Whatever is soothing, comfortable, and pleasant for you. Begin to bathe yourself in that pleasant experience. So this space is always available to you. And often throughout our days and weeks, especially during this trying time right now, this unusual, interesting time, filled with so much uncertainty, perhaps instability. Worries and fears are natural to arise. Depression, anxiety, very natural to be experiencing that at times. Disturbed dreams, agitation with family members or anyone you're living with. Loneliness, if you're not living with anyone. You can always call up this pleasant place, some pleasant memory you've experienced. Sometimes we just need this type of nurturing. To stay there for a moment, not that we're experiencing it right now, but give your mind a break sometimes. Allow it to nurture you, the pleasant space. Allow it to serve you to serve others. And in any event, allow it to bring some balance, some calming. And slowly now bring yourself back here to the space that you're currently in. Allow yourself a couple of deep breaths. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. We're going to turn to the practice, which I'll share my screen in a moment. I'd like to start to clear out some obstacles with the Tara praises. So again, our green Tara is just one of the 21 Taras. The green Tara is more of an energetic enlightenment, clearing out and blowing out obstacles. She, again, as I've mentioned before, was the Buddha of infinite compassion, Chenrezig Zig in Tibetan, was overwhelmed by the suffering. That's his job, the Buddha of compassion, to release everyone from suffering, to help people ease their suffering. And he was a little bit overwhelmed by the suffering at some point. And it's a little bit like, I've been at some teachings with the Dalai Lama, as have some of you, I'm sure. And a couple times I've been in teachings. One time I remember in Dharamsala, India, His Holiness started crying. He was teaching about suffering. And he is said to be an emanation of the Buddha of compassion. And he started crying, and everybody, when His Holiness cries in teachings, everyone gets very silent, and some people start crying themselves. It's very challenging when somebody of that stature and that kind of presence suffers. You know, your heart goes out immediately. And His Holiness just, when he kind of composed himself, then he just said, there's so much suffering. So when the Buddha of compassion gets overwhelmed, and the legend had it, he cried, and out of one of his tears sprang Tara. And she said, I'll help you, I'm here. Super energetic form. So when we look at her picture, which I'm going to share right here, Can everybody see that? Okay, great. This picture, it's not in color, but again, she has her left leg drawn in right here, and it shows she's got control over her sexual energy desire, one of the 3 poisons. But her right leg here is extended out, and that's because she's super energetic and she's ready to spring up to help all living beings. And then these are the 21 Taras you can see around her, and it looks like Shakyamuni Buddha over top. We also are familiar with a white Tara. These are the 2 most popular Taras. The white Tara, one of them is a long life practice that you would do. So I'd like to start with the praises. Let's see, where did they go? I know they're here. Here we go. So we'll ask her to come, and then we can recite these praises once through together, and just take a moment right now to ask for something you would like cleared right now, that you would like her help with. We'll start with the invocation, page 17. From your sublime abode at the Potala, O Tara born from the green letter Tam, your crown adorned with Amitabha, action mother of the Buddhas of the 3 times, Tara, please come with your attendants. The gods and demigods bow to your lotus feet, O Tara. You who rescue all who are destitute, to you, Mother Tara, I pay homage. We can read together in English. All my prostrate to the noble transcendent liberator. Homage Tara, swift heroic, eyes like lightning instantaneous, sprung from opening stamens of the Lord of 3 worlds, tear-born lotus. Homage she whose face combines 100 autumn moons at fullest, blazing with light rays resplendent as a 1,000-star collection. Homage golden blue one lotus, water-born and hand adorning, giving effort calm austerities, patience, meditation, her sphere. Homage crown of Tathagatas, actions triumph without limit, relied on by conquerors' children, having reached every perfection. Homage filling with tutare, hung desire, direction, and space, trampling with her feet the 7 worlds, able to draw forth all beings. Homage worshipped by the all lords, Chakra, Agni, Brahma, Marut, honored by the host of spirits, corpse raisers, Gandharvas, Yakshas. Homage with her trade and paid sounds, destroying foes' magic diagrams, her feet pressing left out right in, blazing in a raging fire blaze. Homage to a very dreadful destroyer of Mara's champion, she with frowning lotus visage, who is slayer of all enemies. Homage at the heart, her fingers adorn her with 3 jewel mudra. Light ray masses all excited, all directions wheels adorn her. Homage, she's so joyous, radiant, crown emitting garlands of light, mirthful laughing with tutare, subjugating Mara's devas. Homage, she able to summon all earth guardians assembly, shaking, frowning with her hong sign, saving from every misfortune. Homage crown adorned with crescent, moon all ornaments most shining, Amitabha in her hair, not sending out much light eternal. Homage she mid wreath ablaze like unending fire abiding, right strength, left and joy surrounds you, troops of enemies destroying. Homage she who strikes the ground with her palm and with her foot beats it, scaling with the letter Hona, 7 levels she does conquer. Homage happy, virtuous, peaceful, she whose field is peace nirvana, she endowed with Om and Soha, destroyer of the great evil. Hamichi with joy surrounded, tearing foes' bodies asunder, freeze with Hung and knowledge mantra, arrangement of the 10 letters, Hamichi Ture with seed letter, of the shape of syllable Hung, by foot stamping shakes the 3 worlds, Meru, Mandayar, and Vindhya. Homage holding in her hand the Hermak moon of Deva lake form, with twice spoken Tara and Pei, totally dispelling poison. Homage she whom gods and their kings and the Kinnaras do honor, armored in all joyful splendor, she dispels bad dreams and conflicts. Homage she whose 2 eyes bright with radiance of sun and full moon, with twice Hara and Tutare, she dispels severe contagion. Homage full of liberating power by the set of 3 natures, destroys hosts of spirits, yakshas, and raise corpses supreme Ture. These praises with the root mantras and prostrations thus are 21. So we'll come back to do the green tar practice, quite short, and I'll tell you, explain the visualization, and we can recite some mantras. Just to give a few more tips that can be helpful for life in general. But one of the things I wanted to read is, and some of this I've talked about before with some of you, is in a sense, this is from Suzuki Roshi, a quote: life is like stepping into a boat that is about to sail out to sea and sink. So what happens is, not to be bleak, okay, but we forget that samsara's nature, meaning the essence of the cycle of existence that we are mired in as human beings, as ordinary human beings, which means we suffer with something called contaminated aggregates. And what it means is that our body and mind, due to grasping and ignorance and self-cherishing, ends up cycling through birth, old age, sickness, and death again and again and again and again. And we do it with suffering because we haven't found a way to merge ourselves with the correct view of the truth that then helps us abandon the self-grasping and self-cherishing that will free us. So what happens is we cycle and we go around and around and around, and we keep coming back with these contaminated aggregates. The whole nature of that is suffering. So we somehow keep trying to fix samsara. It's not a fixable situation. The only way you can fix it is to gain a direct perception of the nature of reality, emptiness, okay, and cultivate the totally open heart, as Lama Yeshe used to call it, totality heart, bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the enlightened attitude. Bodhi is enlightenment. Citta, mind. The mind of enlightenment is this: I want to get enlightened as quickly as possible. Why? So I can benefit all living beings perfectly. That's the essence of bodhicitta. It's not about serving others perfectly. It's not about doing everything perfectly and benefiting others. It's to get enlightened quickly to benefit all living beings. People forget that step. And it's not just about getting enlightened. Okay, some people say, well, my goal is enlightenment. No, enlightenment is the means to getting to bodhicitta. You need both of those. You need both of those, the means to get enlightened, because then you've perfected your mind. You've gotten rid of all the negativity and delusions completely, permanently. Okay, and then I'm also fully empowered with this huge scope and manifestation of realizations. And then I use that, the real purpose, what? To benefit all living beings, to benefit all living beings. So then you get out of samsara and there's no more suffering. Okay, but as ordinary beings, we forget the step of samsara, that there's going to be suffering that shows up. Right now, we have something that's shown up in a kind of global scale, in a somewhat, for some people, alarming way, because a lot of us have never experienced anything like this on the planet. some people were going back into history, which is before we lived, okay? In 1918, the Spanish flu lasted on the planet for a couple of years, and it took out, I can't remember, maybe some of you know the numbers, it took out a vast amount of people. And one of the areas that was extremely hard hit is where I live, was Philadelphia. And the reason Philadelphia was badly hit is because they insisted on holding a parade that they still had where people were all amassing together. So it's a very similar thing that we kind of say, in our lifetime, we have not experienced this, but the planet has experienced great plagues and epidemics before they had any kind of medicine to deal with it, or any sort of antibiotics, or even any kind of medical research at the level it is today. So it's natural, again, that more sophisticated viruses, infections, bacterias, diseases are going to pop up in mutant ways that are going to be challenging our planet again. It's been happening since the beginning of time, right? Since beginningless time. So again, we don't want to forget that, okay, and so it's a coping mechanism to remind myself, you know, when the car doesn't start one morning, that's the nature of cars sometimes, right? If you have a stomachache or a headache one day, or you twist your ankle, that's the nature of the body, is sometimes it's out of whack. So will I let it ruin my entire day? Or can I position myself to go, well, this is unfortunate right now. A week ago, I strained my back in a completely nothing. I literally bent over to pick something up off the floor. I wasn't even really reaching or stretching. It was just a normal, and whatever it was, some muscle must have spasmed. That's all. It was nothing unusual. And for 2 to 3 days, I really had to be careful. Like, it wasn't a big deal, fortunately, and it got better. But these things happen all the time. So instead of moaning, complaining about it, blaming somebody else, blaming myself, it's like, well, you know, as the body ages, these things happen. Things happen on the planet. The nice thing to focus on for buoyancy are the positive things people are doing on the planet, okay? But let's just think about the predicament we're in now of this, one of our sufferings, uncertainty. What are you doing with uncertainty in your life? Okay, we don't like it necessarily. Some people are okay with it. A lot of people don't like it. It relates to change. And we've talked before in some of the classes, how do you deal with change? You pretty good with change? And one way, if you're not good, is you want to do some exercises with yourself about small changes in your life, meaning something changes in your agenda, small things. And I'll give an example just in my world right now, because I'm living alone, I'm quarantined alone, but I'm doing some classes online. I'm also studying some things online myself. I'm interacting with face calls and audio calls with a number of people anyway, separate from the classes. And then occasionally something in the house I'm living with, something will break. I had a sewer backup twice now, okay? And I didn't expect that to happen, but suddenly the plumbing system in the house wasn't working when I had a whole afternoon of a schedule of something else I was going to do that I really wanted to do that afternoon. And then I lost 3 to 5 hours one day, and then I lost several hours another day with this issue. So what do? Can you roll with that? Or are you rigid and stomping around, and you get the company to come and then you're rude to the guy and then you don't give him a tip, and you're, you know, am I calling people and railing on the phone to them about, you know, the sewage system and this and what my father may not have done to maintain the house? And, you know, so check your mind in that space. How, number one, how am I dealing with the change? And then if it's a negative way I happen to be dealing, how does that feel? How does that feel in your body or mind? And if I'm able to roll with it a little bit, there you are on your surfboard, balancing, riding the wave. There's always going to be a wave that's trying to toss you, right? Sometimes I get tossed, okay? And I come up laughing, Can we come up laughing? Or do I get tossed and come up spitting the seawater out and railing and raging at everybody and myself? Okay. So first experiment with the small changes. A sewer thing blocks up in the house, a sewer thing that can be remedied, not a broken water line. That's a little bit more, but even that, but I start with something small, called the company. Unbelievable. On a weekend, they were able to come out. Okay, right after we shut down. They sent a lovely guy. He was amazingly skillful, wonderful. And then I thought about, so I got out of me, broken plumbing thing. I thought about him. Immediately move your mind to somebody else. You go into the grocery store, they don't have the food you wanted that day. What about the workers in the store? Did you ever think about them? Risking their lives for us so that I can have my food and what I want to eat? Fantastic, right? So this guy, I thought about him. Here's a guy that his business is sewage. Can you imagine working in that every day? Like, it was nothing for him. He's used to it. But I thought, he pumps sewage. Like, I'm so glad I don't have to do that. I'm so glad that he does it, so I don't have to do it. Like that. I'm so glad there was enough money for me to pay him, and it was actually very cheap. But I'm so glad all of that was supported and worked out. So small things. So that I could, like, it finished, I could clean up, I could get back on the horse, and I could ride off into my other activities with very little imbalance in the mind. Kind of nice interaction with the person, nice experience. Well, and I learned something about the sewage system, and I didn't know about the pumping and the signs before I needed to get it pumped. Okay, so can you make a positive out of it? So check on the small changes that you're experiencing. And you first practice with those if you don't think you did a good job. If you did a good job, take a bigger change, bigger uncertainty in your life. You know, and how are you working? This is a big uncertainty, COVID virus. People want to know when they'll go back to work, if they still have a job, if they still want to do that job, if they will have health insurance, if they'll have enough money to pay this or that thing, if their children will be going back to school now, if their kids will be going to university in the fall, will they be open? Will the school be open? Will they, you know, there's so many pieces of uncertainty. When will you be able to hug somebody not in your immediate range again? When will you be able to touch somebody or not worry about the distance between you or wearing a mask outside? So we look at this as like, what can you do about it? Okay. One thing is to show up with as much consideration of others as I can have, because it lifts me out of the experience of me sitting in my mind, my gravity bringing me down of what's going to happen to me. We're all in this together. I'm not in this alone. You know, we all have our own individual experiences in it, yes. But the more I can kind of think about, I wonder what their experiences is. A lot of us right now, I'd imagine on this call, on this Zoom meeting, we have access to electricity and internet. That's a luxury for a lot of the planet. So a lot of times, you know, staying in touch with some other communities poorer than yourself. I do that often through interfaith work, volunteering for a couple of groups. And it really keeps me in perspective that I really don't have anything to complain about right now. I feel like kind of very spoiled, the existence I'm living, because I have, you know, hot water and electricity and food and good shelter and things like that. So that's a way to just keep my mind balanced when it might go to a place of complaining about something, and then kind of lifts me back up to say, wow, what about these people? Like that. So just thinking about, and here's the thing is, I just want to add on, and this is from, I wanted to read this from Pema Chodron. Her book is, I think it's Living Beautifully in Uncertain Times. I don't know if anyone's read that. It's so worth a read. It came out a few years ago. She says, how can we live wholeheartedly in the face of impermanence, knowing one day we're going to die? What is it like to realize, Okay, now this is what I like. What is it like to realize we can never completely and finally get it all together? So I really like that notion. And the reason is many people have called me or contacted me, emailed me, and they said that they're struggling. They're feeling that they're very lazy. They're not well disciplined. They're not getting to some of the things they wanted to do. Maybe they're streaming too many videos that are kind of a waste of time, or too many podcasts, or too many things that lead them off into other things on YouTube and things like that. And then they've got these ideas and these projects they want to do. And the day ends and they haven't gotten to cleaning out the closet and organizing the papers and finishing this and finishing this. And so what if you're never going to have it all together? Can you live with that and cruise through it? So that's a way where I've kind of like have these certain projects, and some days, some weeks, I don't know if you notice, for some weeks don't go that well. And other weeks seem to go quite well. Or some days I feel like I wasted the whole afternoon doing what? It was like returning emails that really got me nowhere, just got me more emails. Right? And then some days I feel I'll even use the word productive, like these things got off of my list that had been there a while. So I've kind of let go of that I'm going to really have it all together at some point as an ordinary human. And that's okay. I can still move through without this enormous weight and burden on myself that can weigh me down. And sorry, somebody asked, yeah, it's Pema Chodron, the book was written by, like that. And she's a wonderful nun in the Kagyu tradition, American nun. Fantastic. So she also adds, is it possible to increase our tolerance for stability and change? Possible to increase our tolerance for instability and change. So just thinking about it, because that's the nature of that, the boat that's about to go out to sea and sink, is that's the nature of samsara. So instead of trying to fix it, knowing that I can get out of samsara, we don't want to give that up. Like to know that you can get out of samsara permanently. However, its nature is instability and change. So can I feel more tolerant if that increases around me? Am I going to be okay? And how will I be okay with it? By practicing with the smaller instability and the smaller change. So then the biggest change you're going to probably face in this life could be your own death. And if you've been able to deal with these other changes and these other things in a balanced level, when that comes, it won't be such a ghastly surprise. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I'd just like to move into our Tara practice right now, and then we can take some questions at the end, like that. So I'm going to share my screen again. And what we're going to do is, you can ask Tara, get in touch with Tara. This is why we do these practices, to form a closer connection to that aspect of the enlightened mind, and ask her what help you'd like right now for increasing your tolerance with things like that. If instability and change is a problem for you, and getting you to have a better sense of samsara, so that we will develop a stronger renunciation of it and really dive more and more into our practice. So we're going to go back, and I just want to, you can just sit comfortably. If you'd like to close your eyes, I'm just going to read. I just want to describe the visualization simply. So we're going to start first on page 5 with refuge. And wait, and hang on one second. Okay, we're going to start here. Refuge of Bodhichitta, the top of the left page, page 8. And what I'd first like you to think about is, in the space in front of you, A few feet in front, imagine a beautiful open lotus flower on which rests a moon disk. And imagine on top of that, facing you about 6 inches in height, is Aryatara, slightly higher than the level of your forehead, a radiant emerald green goddess. As best as you can feel, she's in the space in front of you. Beautiful smile on her face. Again, her left leg drawn in to show her control over desire. Her right leg extended out as she's ready to jump up and serve all living beings. Her left hand holds the stem of a beautiful flower, a large flower that is up by her left shoulder. And her right hand is extended out, palm face out by her right knee in a gesture of granting sublime realizations. She's draped with beautiful silks and adorned with radiant jewels. Aryatara. If it's difficult to visualize, imagine a radiant green emerald green light in the space in front of you that represents enlightened energy. And as best you can feel that presence, is this something you'd like to connect with more and more? And we can take refuge in her, feeling she's a source of protection. And doing this, of course, to reach enlightenment, to benefit all living beings. We'll read the Refuge of Bodhichitta verses and the verses on page 8. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merit from giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merit from giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merit from giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. And thinking of the verses in the 7-limb prayer, paying homage, making offerings, confessing non-virtues, rejoicing in virtues, asking the Buddhas to remain until samsara ends, asking them to teach or turn the wheel of Dharma, and dedicating. With my body, speech, and mind, I devoutly prostrate. I offer all offerings, both real and imagined. All sins and offenses amassed from beginningless time, I confess. I rejoice in all virtuous actions of holy and ordinary beings. O Gurus and Buddhas, please remain until samsara ends and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. All my virtues and those of all others I dedicate to the great enlightenment. Then we offer a mandala that's a symbol of offering something for the teachings, to make the teachings happen, to grant for the blessings to come. This ground anointed with perfumes, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. The objects of my attachment, aversion, and ignorance, friends, enemies, and strangers, and my body, wealth, and enjoyments, without any sense of loss, I offer this collection. Please accept it with pleasure and bless me with freedom from the 3 poisons. Imagine the most extraordinary world system you can, offering the finest things, especially all the love you've ever experienced, all of your precious practice. And asking the teacher to accept, Om idam guru ratna mandala kam niratayami. So imagine now Mother Tara in the space in front, and take a moment right now, once again making the requests. Requests are an extremely important way to practice, to supplicate your guru, your teacher, an emanation of the omniscient mind like Tara, and ask her right now, as if you have a virtuous friend in front of you, what do you need? What do you want? Okay, and if it's possible to ask for something bigger than yourself, make this request right now. Tara is very happy to help us. And imagine her now coming to the crown of our head along with the lotus and moon disc on which she sits. She now faces the same direction as you, about a hand's height atop of your crown. Okay. Imagine at her heart is a tiny Tam syllable, T-A-M. That's her seed syllable. In fact, do they have the, there it is. So Om Ahong. Let me just see. I think this is the Tam right here on the bottom where the arrow is. So that syllable right there. Imagine, and you can imagine a T-A-M in green at her heart, very tiny on a moon disc lying flat. And around the edge of the moon is Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha, her mantra. And it's standing clockwise, like a strand of radiant emeralds. And imagine right now that light rays emanate from the Tam syllable and the mantra garland, streaming through her entire body and now pouring out through every pore of her body into the 10 directions, reaching out to touch all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and hooking back all their enlightened energy, all the way back, streaming into the center of her heart, fully energizing her. And now imagine the light and nectar streams out again through her body, pouring out of every pore, and now it descends through our crown. And imagine it streaming down through the crown, purifying and eliminating any obstacles to anything that you've just requested or need, anything like that. And this is her mantra right here in the Tibetan, and here it is in the English, Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. So we're going to recite some of that mantra, and we are first going to hear His Holiness to bless our minds.
Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha.
Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. We can recite some of the mantras on our own. Again, the light streaming down through your crown, pushing down all the negativities, anything that is obstructing, any obstacles. Imagine them completely leaving your body till they're completely gone. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Dare Dure Soha. Just feel that you have greatly reduced whatever obstacles you're hoping to diminish. And imagine Tara over top your crown, very, very happy with your practice. Imagine her dissolving from the edges of the visualization, along with the lotus and moon, into the center, into a radiant emerald drop of light. Imagine that melting into your crown. Just feel all the blessings of her holy body, speech, and mind. And in conclusion, we can read these verses, 2 verses of dedication, bottom of the right page. May I quickly become Guru Aryatara Padmadroma and lead each and every sentient being into her enlightened state because of these merits. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Are there any questions about the practice or anything else? You can either put your hand up, you could write a question in the chat. And just a couple other things to add is what I talked about with uncertainty. A couple tips just to mention, and some of these we've talked about before, but look at, here's an idea, can you drop the story on another level? Can you drop the story? Meaning, we get stories going about things and about people and ideas, and you're harboring in your home and you get a funny email from somebody, or the friend gets off the phone too quickly, or and we start these stories, and check on the stories. Are they realistic? What reality is it based in? Is it my delusion swimming around creating a bigger story? Or have I just invented some fantasy that doesn't exist? Then I ruminate about it. And now I've created this entrenched tale that may not really exist at all. So free yourself from those stories, and also stories about yourself. So we're going to actually be doing, Varjapani and LMB have asked me to do a compassion course, which is going to start a week from tonight, and it's going to be 7:30 to 9 or 4:30 to 6 California time. It'll be an hour and a half basically, and a half an hour longer, and we're going to look at methods of treating yourself, taking care of yourself, okay, but not losing our motivation to help all living beings. So part of it is look at the stories you get going, and we're going to be looking at a lot of stories we get going about ourselves that simply are not true. So I find that's like, I'll notice a story come up in my mind, and then I'll say, that's just one view. And it has a certain validity to it, but it's not the whole story. Why is it not the whole story? Because I don't have a direct perception of emptiness yet. So then I'm never having the whole story. Like, I'm never really directly hitting the truth, but I think I am. And that's a source of a lot of suffering. Okay. So that's something I just wanted to mention. I've also talked before about, and we'll talk more about this in the compassion courses, knowing your limits. and setting reasonable goals and boundaries. Is that something that's going on? There's some people I've spoken to, and they are saying they're not doing enough and they're crap and all these things. And then I hear the stuff that they're doing, and I find it pretty extraordinary. Like they're kind of, super being. And I kind of think, well, very high, lofty notions they have of what they need to accomplish in order to be valid and to be whole and to be authentic or to be accepted or approved of. So check that about your limits. Are the goals reasonable? How are your boundaries if you're sheltering with others? There's some mothers I know taking care of families, or some people that have had adult children move back in. And some of them said, it's amazing they have any hair left on their head right now. They're completely crazed. Okay. So what kind of boundaries? They have adult children that move back in. It's reasonable to ask them to share cooking meals with you. Mm-hmm. So they didn't, at first they didn't think about that. They're the mother. So it was like, and there were the kids back in the household thing where mom cooked when they would come back and visit. So they were, so now they're living on their own, they're cooking on their own. So when they come back to the house, they can do that. So think about things like that. And thank you. Kai just posted about the upcoming retreats, the Cultivating Compassion. And there's a way to register on the link above. Here's a question. How does the concept of emptiness relate to us not having the whole story? So Faye, that's a whole other class right now. I'm afraid we don't have time for that. But one thing I will say is I have a valid perspective, and I see somebody get angry at someone else like that, or they might snap at me. And then I interpret and I get angry back at them, okay? But if I understood that things are, arise in dependence on other things, and I had more of an open-hearted mind, I might consider maybe they, had a problem in the morning, maybe they're ill, maybe their child's ill, maybe they're having financial issues. I don't know the whole story. I don't know anything else going on for them. All I know is they attacked me. And I have the wrong notion of myself. And I feel like I exist inherently, permanently, for all time. And I'm the most important thing in the universe. So emptiness chips away at that notion of myself. So then if somebody snaps at me, it's a more fluid experience for me. Wow, I guess I have the karma to create the cause to get snapped at right now. It doesn't mean I like it, and it doesn't mean it's comfortable. But now let me consider things from the other person's perspective. I wonder what's going on for them. So it comes from a completely gentle space, open-hearted, open-minded space. So emptiness is a way to really deflect all the hostility and all the other imbalances that are formed by delusion, like that. So that's a little crash course there to that question. But we are... Okay, suggestions of a simple daily Tara practice for us all, whether it be a meditation or mantra. That's just the practice we just did, Marianne. So that booklet is available from on the FPMT shop. I don't have the link right now, but if you go to fpmt.org, go to the shop link, and the simple Tara practice is there. I think we shared it in a previous class, but it's easy to find, and that's the suggestion of the simple. That's like a really simple Tara practice, like that, and that's the mantra of green Tara. So you could recite that mantra if you don't want to do the practice, and I did an abbreviated form of the practice, but you could visualize Tara, ask her for what you'd need, take refuge, generate bodhicitta, imagine she comes to your crown, the light rays come down. Many of our practices are similar, and I recite her mantra while the light rays are like that. Then I dissolve her into me at the end and dedicate the merit. So you want to start with a good motivation, and you want to end with a dedication. Oh, it's your first night. Okay, no problem at all. Here, let me just share with you if you go here, that's FPMT, that's our umbrella organization. Go to the shop, and maybe somebody can have a quick look to post where that simple Tara practice is. They don't cost very much money, and you can download some of them. Then you'd have that practice, Marianne. There, somebody's holding it up, the booklet. Thank you. So you can either get the booklet. Now they're not really issuing hard copy things, but you can download them. And then you download them to your computer. And if you want to print it out, there's the link. Thank you so much. So for Marianne, you can see Heidi's thing. And that's a really nice, yeah, there's a lot of really nice things on the site, but that's a really nice practice just to clear obstacles. A lot of new students love to come in through that practice or a simple Buddha of Compassion practice, Chenrezig, because they're very simple to do, and they really, just to get a feeling of her energy, that enlightened energy, that she can push through all sorts of obstacles for us. Well, I want to thank you. We're over time right now. We were just going to try to keep these to an hour. So I want to thank you so much for joining. And I really hope to see you at the next session.